welcome back to another video. My name is Max and today we're finally going to be doing the surrealism transformation of my OC Jake. This one, we planned it in the last video, so if you want to check that out you can, but if you're just interested in this then sure, go ahead, ignore me. This one was actually my favourite of the four that I originally did. Looking at it close up now, I'm like, ooh. This one is going to be a little bit more gruesome. If you saw the last one, the last video, then you'll know. Just have caution. I've warned you. You can't complain because I've warned you. So yeah, enjoy that.
For anyone who wasn't here for last week's video, I'm just going to give a quick overview of what I talked about there so that no one feels left out and excluded. So basically, I was just planning what I would be doing in this video, which is, the painting, and we decided that I'm doing Jake in a sort of siren mermaid-y kind of form, and he's going to be holding open his torso skin, and you're going to see his ribs underneath, and there's going to be tentacles, thick octopus tentacles coming out from inside him. Bit of a grim choice, I know, but there is reasoning behind it. I didn't want to just have him be a sort of generic looking siren boy because that's been done before, and I wanted to come up with something original. And also all of my paintings that I'm doing in this series have kind of double meanings, secret meanings. Well, I mean, they're not secret because I'm telling you about it now. I didn't talk about it in the previous two for whatever reason, but this one's meaning is kind of about how you can have an appearance on the outside and seem absolutely fine, but inside you're anxious as heck, and the tentacles kind of represent that sort of horrible, turny, sick feeling, like there's something moving inside your stomach when you're really nervous and anxious. And I picked Jake for this theme because his fatal flaw is basically that he is very self-conscious and very nervous and worries about everyone around him and looking after them and things like that, but on the outside he seems absolutely fine, and he's sort of the pillar of all my four characters that's holding everyone together but is falling apart behind the mask. In the main kind of normal Earth universe, he's a very sporty, cheerful, popular, friends with all the mean kids kind of boy in school, and gets into a lot of trouble because he feels like he has to, and he secretly hates himself inside because he doesn't want to be doing all these against the rules things, but he's kind of being forced into it, and that's kind of the origin of this anxiety that kind of stays with him for the rest of his life. And that's why in this painting I've got him set in the second from the bottom layer of the... If you've not seen the previous two videos, you'll have no idea what the layer thing is. But basically it's different parts of the universe that are, the bad ones are lower down and the good ones are higher up. That's all you need to know basically. And he's in the second from the bottom one, which is the kind of underwater kelp forest that's sort of endless and very difficult to navigate, and it's pretty miserable place to be honest. You can go for a very long time without finding any other lost souls, but that's where he is. And my OCs, I've kind of distributed them within these layers kind of based on their struggles in their main stories that aren't in, this weird universe. I'm going to quickly talk about the light that's kind of ruining the shot at the moment. I figured out that if I do my filming before 10 o'clock in the morning, then this doesn't happen because of, where the sun is in the sky. So this is the only time that you're going to see this, and for the rest of the video it's going to be perfect. Starting from now, because I figured out when I'm meant to do it. Also, things might look quite disproportionate just because the camera is slightly tilted in the wrong angle. You can kind of tell because the paper's thinner at the bottom. Don't know why it does that, but it just does. As always with this painting, I started off feeling very kind of upset with it because I've still not learned from the whole, well, this is just the process thing, but in my watercolours they always end up looking really crapped and washed out and stupid to start with. as it still kind of looks now, but you know, as you add the layers and work through it, it gets much better. I think I've developed a much healthier way of working on it this time, because in the last two I just did like an hour a day for 8 days, and it was basically consuming my life for those 8 days, and I wasn't having a break from looking at it, and I was kind of just kept thinking, oh, it looks so bad. But this time I'm back at school, so I'm working on it over 2 weekends, and after the like whole break of the week between those weekends, I came back to it and thought, actually, it's not that bad. Like, I thought it was really crap, but it's actually fine. So we're gonna dive into the lore a bit now of this part of the universe. Just like a quick overview of the whole thing in general. Basically, it's kind of an afterlife, so you have a string of past lives, and then you end up here, and then that's it. Like, you can't go into any other worlds. Whether you die or not, you'll be reborn into the same one. And you kind of work through the layers, like getting better and getting worse as a person, basically just learning on your experiences, both from your past lives and from your current life in this horrific realm. So in this layer specifically, not only are you taunted by the massive, endless kelp jungle that you have to live in, you are tormented by your worst fears or your worst qualities, or whatever caused you the most suffering in your past lives. And as I said, in Jake's case, he was a very anxious person, and so his anxieties come back to haunt him now that he lives in, you know, the ocean of woe. But why, you may ask? Well, that's a valid question. I always like to provide a why for my weird, surreal ideas. So, I am of course going to be dragging the mycelium network into this, because that seems to be my explanation for absolutely everything on this channel. Basically, if you weren't in the previous videos, the mycelium network is, in real life, it's a thing, and it's the sort of little tubes that connect all the mushrooms, and they talk to each other through them. In this fantasy world that I've created, they kind of weave between universes and communicate with not just the mushrooms from, you know, the mushroom hell from episode 1, but all of the plants, all of the animals, every living thing that isn't a human is connected to this sort of twisted mycelium network. And in this layer, that is of course the kelp, which is, you know, the only other living thing, and it acts kind of like how spiders' webs do. So if you touch a spider's web, the spider's like, oh, well, I know where you are now because I can feel you. The kelps basically act as like sensors, like cat's whiskers as well. Like, they feel the person's moving around and they know where they are. However, unlike in the mushroom hell layer, they're not being fed on. The people don't die. Like, you physically cannot die in this realm. You just go on and on and on forever. In which case, like, what's the point? Why are the mycelium network doing this? Like, what are they getting out of it if they're not eating corpses? It's basically just a big experiment on the human brain. The network is trying to figure out what kind of person is broken by this torment and what kind of person is made stronger by it. If they are broken by it, then they'll probably end up moving to the layer below it and hanging out in mushroom hell for a bit. But it's also possible to leave this layer and go to the layer above it, which is the kind of like the empty forest of misery, which, you know, it doesn't sound much better, but, you know, it is better. You get less tentacles coming out of your skin. So unlike with the citizens of mushroom hell, there is hope for them. Like, they can leave if they have the will. What's the point in this experiment? Entertainment, basically. They're just, you know, kind of like, it's fun to watch people suffer. I feel like I will get into the motives of the mycelium network, like, on a larger scale, like, as a whole throughout all of the layers, in a later episode, but, you know, I feel like we need to think it through a little bit more first, because it's kind of the backbone of the entire narrative. Speaking of the narrative, let's talk about how this painting kind of weaves into the storyline that I mentioned last episode. So for people who didn't watch the Toby painting, basically Toby's kind of the main character of the story. He is traveling through the different layers. Like, he was born, quote unquote, into like the second from the top layer, which is pretty nice, lovely place to live. but he remembers his past lives, unlike lots of the other people. So he remembers his long lost love, his soulmate, who is in the mushroom hell layer, so, you know, like the opposite. And he is trying to work his way down through the layers to get to his long lost love. And on his way down through the layers, he eventually will end up in, you know, the ocean area, which I still need to come up with proper names for all these different layers because it sounds kind of lame just calling it the ocean area, but like whatever. He gets there and he finds Jake, who is of course his brother, so he remembers him. And I feel like Jake will kind of remember him, but obviously he doesn't remember his past lives. He'll recognize him because he's been, like, Toby's been a key feature in every single life he's had. And yeah, he meets Jake, they hang out for a bit, and then Jake's like, okay, so can you take me to your nice now? And Toby's all like, all about that. And they kind of hatch a plan that Toby's gonna go down to the next layer. Jake's gonna help him because he knows where the big, like, hellmouth is. And then if Toby comes back, then he'll take Jake with him as well. Which, you know, it's a bit of a shaky plan because the likelihood that Toby's going to be able to leave Mushroom Hell is, like, it's a very slim chance. It's very difficult to leave Mushroom Hell. For everyone who hasn't seen the previous 2 episodes, this is a picture of Toby, which I did last time, and he's currently in, like, the nice area. So as you can see, it's very, like, lush and paradisey. And this is a picture of Jaden, who is, like, the long-lost love that he's trying to get back to. And he lives in Mushroom Hell, which, as you can see, is not a pleasant place to be, and it, like, horrendously disfigures you from all the spores that you inhale. If you're, like, interested in the story, then I definitely recommend checking out those 2 videos because it provides a lot more context and you definitely understand it better. But if you have no interest whatsoever and you're just here for, like, watching me paint and you'd rather I just, like, shut up, then you don't really need to watch those. So this is the point in the painting where it actually starts to look good, and unfortunately I positioned my camera so that you could see me do the hair, but then it decided to move, and so you can't, so sorry about that. But yeah, after you've added enough layers and there's enough kind of like depth and tone, especially in the ribcage there, I'm very happy with how that turned out. It does look like better eventually. And I mentioned in the planning video that I was gonna change the composition to the practice one that I did, and have it cut off like exactly after the tear in his middle stops, but I kind of placed his head kind of wrong, and so the body that followed was then kind of wrong as well, and so I had to like cunningly place some kelp to like disguise any nudity that potentially could be visible. Which, you know, it also adds some nice shape variety to the composition, I guess, so I'm not, like, upset about it, but it's, like, a little bit cringe. I didn't want to just give him a tail because, like, he's not a mermaid, so the idea is that he has human legs, but his feet are, like, really long and webbed, like flippers. Some other, like, mermaidy things he's got is his gills, of course, and his, like, siren ear, which I put some kind of ear piercings in because one of his features in, like, the normal world is that he's very into having lots of earrings going on. And also he's got little scales all over his skin, which also added some kind of texture, which made it look more realistic. Kind of like how I did in the first one with the little, like, mini mushroom growths on Jaden's skin. So we're coming to the end of the video now, and I just wanted to say that the next episode will not be the last episode. Like, if you watched the original all those years ago video where I did the original, like, drawings, there was only 4, but I'm gonna continue with, like, more old art from different, like, pieces. Right, so here's the finished thing, and holding the camera straight, you can see that it's not as disproportionate as it appeared throughout the video. Thank you very much for watching the video. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed it. And, you know, let me know in the comments if you've been here for all 3 and, like, which one's your favourite. And I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!